Okay, so hi again. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about how to run outstanding retros with GoRetro Premium. Okay, so basically, first of all, my name is Noah. I'm going to introduce myself a bit more in just a sec. But basically, I've been talking to a lot of Scrum Masters, people facilitating retros, and we realized that there's no one best flow for retrospective meetings. Different teams have different challenges. And with GoRetro, we have a toolbox to adapt the flow to your team, different needs, basically. So that's what we're going to cover today. Okay, so as promised, we're going to get to know each other a little bit. So I hope you're not familiar with this feeling, but I'm guessing some of you are. Usually when retrospective starts, people tend to be very quiet. They don't like sharing, and it's really hard to get them to talk. And that's why we created our icebreakers. So let's try that and see how it works for us. So going to the board, I'm going to click on the icebreakers to find what questions we're going to get today. And our question today is, which emoji do you use the most? So if you don't mind putting in the chat, what is the emoji that you use the most? And hopefully, yeah, we don't have problems with the chat today. I'm not sure. I think this will be mine. Yeah, I see a lot of laughter. That's great. Great. I love that's a good question. I haven't seen that before. Great. You're welcome to continue adding if you want, but thank you for participating. So a bit about me. I'm Noah. I've been advising developers for over 8 years in different stages, in different companies as well. I've been working with GoRetro, thousands of users. Definitely haven't spoken to all of them yet, but I'm definitely always looking to learn new things about retrospectives, about development processes, about Scrum, but also about other stuff. I think my favorite topic probably is like geography and traveling and food, which is very much related to traveling. So that's a bit about me. How can we stay in touch? So first of all, if you haven't seen my name yet in emails or tips with the posts in the product or stuff like that, you'll probably be seeing that. Other than that, you're very much welcome to send me an email. I'll share my email later on, or set up a call. I'm sure you've seen a place where you can book a time with me. I'll be more than happy to get to know a bit more about you, your team, and learn more and see how we can help you as well. So what's on the agenda for today? So we're going to do a quick intro on GoRetro, basically. We're going to cover the main challenges. So we're going to retro a bit about the most common retro challenges. I haven't mentioned that yet. Hope you got this feeling already. But today's session is going to try to be a collaborative one, right? Just like we're hoping your retros look like, not quiet, but people actually participating. So I'm going to ask for some participation. Hopefully that will work. Then we're going to talk about the 5 stages of retrospective. And we're going to see how we can take each stage and make it work best for your team. And then we're going to have time for questions and answers. We already have the questions and answers open. So if you have questions while I'm speaking, basically, you can already start typing them down. We do have Yaakov here from our support team, which you might have had a chance to talk to already. He'll help me with answering questions during the webinar. Okay, so let's get started. So a bit about GoRetro and our team. Basically, we're a team of developers who are facing some of the most common challenges developers face, right? Like everyone else, we want to deliver more and faster. We overplan, we sometimes underdeliver, and we want to make sure that we are able to identify what's keeping us, slowing us down, and how can we improve. And basically, we realized that the retrospective is the best place to start doing that. It's the most important Scrum ceremony. It's probably the only ceremony that 99% of Scrum teams or teams claiming to try to do Scrum actually follow. And that's where we started. It's not going to be where we end. We have a lot more coming. But basically using GoRetro, you can run your retrospectives in a very simple, fun, and easy way, very easily increase your engagement and more importantly, follow up on your action items as well. Cool. So let's retro. So hopefully all of you have seen my email from yesterday asking you to go to our retro board and basically share how's your retro? What would you like to drop, add, keep, improve in your retros? And I've also added my own column here for your retro in one word. So if you haven't added your, we do have some cards here. If you haven't added your cards, I'm going to give you some time to do that. So let's start the timer. Sorry, if you haven't seen that, you're not familiar with that. This is where we have our timer. And I'm going to give you just 1 minute. Hope that will be enough for you. And let's see where my Spotify opens. It's oh so quiet. Shh, shh. It's oh so still. Shh, shh. You're all alone. Shh, shh. And so peaceful until you fall in love. Simple, the sky up above. Simple is caving in. Wow, wow. You've never been so nuts about a guy you wanna love. You wanna cry, you cross your heart and hope to die till it's over. And then... Okay, time is up. So hopefully not everyone can relate to that song during the retros. Thank you for adding cards. Oh, what happened here? Great. Okay, so what we are going to do now, once my screen gets back to work, is I'm going to change the settings of the board. So you might have noticed all the cards were hidden. I didn't want you to see everyone else's cards while you're writing so that you're free of other people's ideas, clear of bias. And now is the time for me to unhide the cards, basically. And I'm going to also enable voting. I'm going to keep the option for hiding the vote count for now. And hopefully I'll remember to change it afterwards. And I'm trying to click this. Sorry, something is weird with my screen here. Disable voting. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is try to quickly go over the cards that we already have here. I'm going to give you a bit more time. And we'll ask you to vote. Each one of you have 6 votes. So just take your time and vote on whatever you can relate to, whatever you think makes sense to you as well. I'm going to take the time and try to merge some stuff that are repeating. Yeah, merge. Screen is freezing. Wow, I love that we have repeated stuff here. My screen keeps freezing here. Sorry about that. Okay, we are out of time. Let me just refresh this. Okay, great. So we're out of time. Now what I will do is I will unhide the vote so we can see the vote count. And what I'm going to do now is sort by votes so that we can see the most voted ones on top. So we'll be able to discuss this a bit. Let's see what you want to drop. So one person taking over the retrospective. Yep. Focusing more on negative items than shouting about successful things, and same cards, retro after retro. Okay, wow. What do you want to add? So spice and fun over function. I like that a lot. Add more engagement during the sprint. The devs don't remember things they wish to raise during the sprint. Wow, that's a really good point as well, other than the fun. something fun. Yeah, I can merge that one as well. So if you haven't noticed, what I've done is I've merged some cards that are similar. It's something that we very easily can do, and you can also unmerge them if you accidentally did something you didn't think makes sense. Okay, what would you like to keep? So keep the light mood and fun atmosphere. That's good. Open discussion, very important as well. Improving action items. Yeah, really important. Basically, we may not like to admit it, but action items are basically like the goal, right? We want to get action items that will get us to improve. And if we don't do that, we don't track that. We're losing some of the point, basically. And the worst part is when developers are not feeling like they're getting any value from the retrospective meetings, and that they just, they don't feel like there's reason to add their votes or their opinions or follow up on that either. Improve participation, help those who usually don't speak. Yeah, that's really important. Some of the words, short, challenging, quiet, safe. Cool. Great answers. Thank you everyone for participating. Great. So one thing we realized, we're going to get back to talking about these issues, of course. One thing we learned is really important is to identify where your team is in its agile journey, basically. Every team can improve, can get to different stages and be more and more advanced. Oh, just a second, I need help with the TV that is closing. So it's important to identify where you are at the process so that you can learn what should you do with your retrospectives to help your team. So we've divided it in this way, and you can see that we've added these chilies to kind of like identify how spicy the team is, basically. So Scrum rookies, basically teams that never ran a retrospective meeting. Yeah, they're not sure how it should look like, what they should do, what they should focus on. Beginners running basic retrospectives, so people join, they try to talk, maybe they're not able to generate some good action items yet, but they are starting to learn about the framework. Advanced, so running retros for a while now, maybe they're a bit bored and they need spice like we saw, and help maybe bring up the participation again. And data-driven, the most advanced we've seen here, is basically including sprint data in your retros. So not just talking about the team sentiment, how they're feeling, what they think the sprint is, how they think the sprint is going, but really, how is it actually going? How are you compared to what you planned, with your velocity, expected delivery, and more. So one more thing I'm going to ask you to do, and let's see if I'm able to get that working. I want to do a tiny poll and ask you to identify your team stage. If you can do that really quickly, that would be great. And this question is mostly for yourself, because it's important that you understand that, right? It does help me to understand where your team is at and where your challenges might be. Great. Okay, so I think we have, cool. We have kind of like 50-50 between beginners and advanced. No one declared themselves here as Scrum rookies or data-driven. So that's interesting. Great, thank you for that. I can end the poll right now, I think. Great. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about before I actually get to the retro stages is the facilitator role. Talk about basically the facilitator role. So I'm assuming, I'm not sure I'm correct, but that all of you here are retrospective facilitators. But I don't know if you are doing that because you are the Scrum Masters of the team. Maybe you have experience with being a Scrum Master. Perhaps you're the team lead in a team with no Scrum Master or no one else volunteering for the job. So there could be different people running the retrospectives. And I want you to think of why is that person you or anyone else in your team, and if that works for the team or not. Right? Any of those have, and sorry, I didn't mention another option is rotating retrospective facilitators. That could be a really great option, but it really depends again on the team and the setup. So if you do have an advanced and experienced Scrum Master, probably the best option for you is that they run the retrospective. If you're the team lead, maybe you would like to start rotating the job. It really helps with different things, like making sure that people understand how it feels like to be on the other side and get them to participate, see different ways of people communicating and talking. So that could be interesting to change it up. As you see with 2 chilies, I have added this option. It doesn't matter what your role is. As a facilitator, you have to make sure you're committed to these three things. First of all, replace judgment with curiosity. As the facilitator, especially if you're the team lead, you can't judge the opinions and the cards people are adding. Of course, you can't control, maybe you're judging it internally, but externally, you have to make sure it doesn't sound like you're judging, because that could just shut people down and make them and others not participate, right? So replace that with curiosity. Really, this is what you feel. Why is that? Or can you clarify more on that? Stuff like that, right? Second thing is, it's not all about you, right? So don't take criticism personally. If things are going wrong, that we're here to talk about that. It doesn't mean they're criticizing you again, especially if you're a team lead. And the third thing is empower the team to take on action items. Something I see a lot happening is team leads taking all the action items on themselves. Super important to make sure the team is involved. It doesn't have to be huge actions that they have to take. It could be some small creative initiatives that can help them. First of all, again, be empowered by taking on the responsibility, help engage them more, and make sure they're more committed to the process. Cool. So let's talk about the flow, basically. And the first stage, so there are 5 stages, basically, of retrospective. I'm not the one that made that up. We do have some articles on that. So setting the stage, first thing, super important. First thing when I do to set the stage is basically creating the board. And when I do that, I need to choose a template. The template should reflect the team's needs. So the first thing is, if you're, again, maybe not rookies, but beginners, you can continue on with the same template, see how that works for you, try it out. We have a bunch of templates. Let me show you how that looks like. And in the meantime, Yaakov is going to share a link on, which one is it? Oh, I don't have it here open. Sorry, Yaakov has it. He will share it with you of the different templates and when, what's a good template for you to try, depending on your team. When I'm starting and creating a new board, I can basically just select a template. I have a bunch of those here. I've used the Daki one before, but we can try what went well, for example, what didn't go well, and so on. Okay. So again, if you're more advanced, you've tried out a bunch of retrospective meetings, the team is bored, sometimes just by selecting a different template, it can bring them back a bit more, like make them a bit more alive. Even though some of the templates are very similar, just by changing, the way that the column names are I lost the word for it, but like the way that they're, how do you say, like phrase? Yeah, thank you. Phrase. It can really like make them think of things differently, not what didn't go so well, but okay, what can I improve, or what made me happy, or stuff like that. Can make you get different answers. So that's really cool. Another tip I learned, which I really like, and I tried that on with you, is adding custom columns. So I've seen teams adding columns like you saw the retro in one word, or my sprint in one word, or today's emoji, or the song that was stuck in my head today, or all kinds of stuff like that. It really helps, again, at creating participation and engagement with the team. And it's something that is a lot easier to share than what didn't go well in the retrospective. So that already helps with an easy start. Second thing is select the board settings. So really important to limit the bias. If your team is not feeling very open, like the retrospective needs to be a place which is a safe space for the team, where they feel like they can share their thoughts. And if they are limited by bias, or they're worried about what other people are adding, on who's voting on what, and I need to comply with my team, that can hurt all of these. And that's why I really recommend you to make sure your cards are hidden, you're not showing the author, depending on your team, right? If your team is very open, maybe showing who the author of the cards is a good thing, right? But again, you have to match it with your team's stage, basically. Share with the team. So the board, once you create it, you can share it with the team. Usually, beginners will start with creating the board right when the retrospective starts, or the same day. More advanced teams might want to create the board in advance. We actually do it when the sprint starts. And then the team has an open space where they can already share their thoughts. I've seen some teams that are also using Slack channels. So during the sprint, they can already add their thoughts. They don't have to go to GoRetro. and start looking at where to add it. Now they just in their Slack, where they live basically most of the day, add their thoughts. Another trick I learned from someone a few weeks ago, which I like, but it's kind of controversial, is every time in the daily stand-up, for example, when someone complains or says something that's blocking them, they just tell them, they make a face and they just say, okay, add it to the board. And it gets the developer a bit upset, but also, they know they have a space where they can, take out their anger, sort of. It also can be good stuff. It doesn't have to be bad stuff, but it's really important to try to gather. And I think someone mentioned it in the board we started before. People don't always remember what happened during the sprint. And then if you ask them to do it only when the retrospective starts, they will usually talk about the stuff from the end of the sprint. Another trick I've learned not so long ago is when you start the meeting, you can also try to give them some imagine it with an imagination a process of oh, you remember the sprint, remember it started, it was really hot that day, and Yaakov did something really funny and he forgot his food or something like that, right? Starting then, and the next week something happened, right? So this really helps them kind of try to think what they went through during the sprint. So you can try that. And last thing is setting the stage, the icebreakers. What we've started with the meeting with. The icebreakers are just such a kind of like the custom columns I've mentioned. They're just such a great way to get people to talk. And kind of like I like to say, it's like put the leg in the door, right? The moment someone already starts talking, okay, now you're in Zoom, you're all quiet. Unfortunately, I can't see you and you can only see me. But it's really easy to stay quiet when you're not saying anything. And once you start saying something, it's so much easier to continue. So start talking about with icebreakers about something related to you is a lot easier. And that's a really good way to get people more engaged in the conversation, already share their thoughts. And it's a great team building exercise as well. I've learned a lot of really great things about people in my meetings and in our retrospectives that I would have never learned, especially if your team is geographically divided. You might never learn stuff like such interesting stuff about your team members, basically. So really recommend trying that out. Then we're gathering data. So we can gather soft data basically from the team with their cards, what their sentiment is, what is important for them, what are they feeling. We're adding the cards, right? So we want to limit the time with timer. I do recommend giving the team time during the retrospective, even if you shared it before. Give them more time, they need that. Then voting time. How many votes is also an important thing to think about. I've heard a different range of things. I like to kind of give a lot of votes. 6 is a pretty good number, I think. I like using them as weight. So if I really care about something, I might give 3 or 4 votes for the same thing. There's on the other hand, some people say, no, there's the 3-coin method. You only give them 3 votes, and they really have to think of what they want, where they want to put their coins at. So think of, again, what fits better with your team. Gathering hard data. So again, for the more advanced teams that are trying to get to the data-driven part, you can gather data about your sprint. How did it really go? And we offer that with GoRetro in the sprint monitoring page. You can gather that from Jira or different things like that. You don't have to use GoRetro, but it's definitely a great way to see where you are with your burn down, how much the plan versus actual you've already done, how much percentage of carryover you've completed, how many tasks you've added mid-sprint. It's really important to talk about that again if you are in that stage where you can get that. Data-driven insights is another thing that we offer, and that's basically our Joker. What our Joker does, you can see here is the column. It goes over the sprint monitoring data and puts the insights into your board already with some really great tips, and really gets important highlights, like, for example, average time in pending review for completed issues dropped from 95 hours to 53. Can you point to what has changed so that you can reproduce this improvement, right? So we really want to make sure we understand what happened and what can we learn from that. Generating insights. So we've gathered the info, we've set the stage. Now it's time to unhide the cards, group them together if there are any worth grouping. sorting them by votes, definitely recommend that, and then discussing the top cards. When you're doing that, again, who is presenting is important. Is it the facilitator? Is it the person that authored the card? Is it someone random that you would like to select? It's important to think about those things. What can make the conversation flow a bit better? Something I've learned that I really like doing, if it's always the same facilitator, when they read the card and then they point to someone from the team and asking them to basically start speaking about it, how they're feeling about it, can they relate, can they explain more about that? I think that's really helpful to do that. For advanced teams, if you have a team that talks about a lot of things or add a lot of cards to improve focus on the meeting, I would use the show only top 5 cards. Okay, I've had a meeting last week where someone told me, no, you only need to talk about 1 card so that you can really get deep into it. It might be a bit extreme, but it really depends on how deep you want to take the conversation to, and how much your team is willing, to put so much thought into it. But it's a really interesting thing. I think we're going to try that next retro. Then we need to decide what to do. So our action items, basically, we talk about a card, we need to discuss the why, right? What's the cause of this card? So if we plan too much, what caused it, right? What caused us that caused that? Remember, there's the 5 whys, you can try that. So, but don't try that only on the cause, but only try to make sure you're understanding the impact as well. It's possible that the team is really concerned about something, that the impact of it is very, very small. So it's really important to understand, again, the cause, so you can learn how to improve that and the impact that it has. Then you need to decide who takes it on. I've already mentioned, I definitely want to make sure you're not taking on all the action items to yourself. It's really important to empower the team. And again, you can be really creative with action items. It doesn't have to be something very boring, like compare, I don't know, we've talking about the planning, compare how many, but it could be like small stuff and fun stuff that your team can be creative with and try to get them to feel like they can really bring up some crazy ideas. SMART goals, basically, or action items, is a great way to do that as well. Jakob has shared the link with you, but we should have that article here. So I didn't prepare that. Basically, SMART goals are, can you remind me what they are? I forgot the S, but they have to be measured, right? What's the S? Specific. Yeah, specific is important. Measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bounded, right? If they're not, your action items are not like that, it will be really hard to follow. And last thing here is following up on previous action items. Basically, we've actually added if you haven't seen that last week or this week, was it? We've added the option. So we are using a public board, so you can't really, and we don't have previous ones, but if you are able to see here all the action items, if you're not sure how to create an action item, that's how you do it. Just create on the lightning here and create an action. Oh, I did that on the tracking action items without even noticing. We can put a description here. We can put a due date, and we'll be able to do that. Assign action items to each member. Sorry for my typos. Great, I can see that here. And here I'll be able to see also action items from previous retrospective meetings. So it's really easy for me to follow up on that and see what happened. And if we need to kind of like remind the team as well of what's happening. Then we want to wrap up. So we want to ask the team for its sentiment about the sprint. How are they feeling over it? And for that, we have the happiness index. You can see that right here. Basically, we can share how were you feeling this sprint? How happy were you? Were you very sad? Were you very happy? Somewhere in between. It's really important, to know how your team is feeling. It's a good thing to see it over time, to see the trend, but I also like to look at it in a different way, and not just in a different, but in another way, and try to see how different events affect the team sentiment. For example, if we're doing a bug sprint, right? Does it make the team happier that we're finally getting over with a lot of bugs? Are they not liking it? Do we have a crazy deadline that we have to get to, and everyone's crazy, and the sprint was very hard? So I want to make sure if those different types of events are motivating the team or demotivating the team, really important. And lastly, meeting recap. basically after the retrospective ends, we can export it. So we can share it with the team members, both the cards and the action items. Maybe if we want to share it in a larger group as well, so that we can increase kind of like show the good team, the exposure, show the good team, the good work the team is doing, and also create commitment within the team. We are working on a really, really great feature that we are calling Meeting Recap that will create a much cooler export of your meeting summary. So more to come on that. And the next thing you can do, again, a bit more advanced, already create the new board for your next retrospective. Now it's time for some questions, if you have any. Let's see if there are any questions. I don't see any questions yet. If you do have questions, please, you can definitely type them down or even raise your hand. And while you are doing that and thinking of questions, I would like to ask one last thing from you today. We have one more slide, don't worry. But if you can go in the board to the Team Happiness Index and basically answer how happy were you with this session, okay? To not embarrass you, I won't look at it right now. It's totally anonymous, don't worry. You can say whatever's on your mind. We definitely, just like any other Scrum team, we want to continuously improve. So we want to know how you felt about this session. And also, if you have any ideas of other things you would like to learn more about, then you can definitely share that with us as well in the chat or in the questions and answers. And while we're on that, I'll take you to the last slide I have, which is the key takeaways from today. So one thing really important to understand is where your team stands and what can fit your team, right? Understand where you are at the Agile journey, basically. Match your facilitation technique to your team. So if your team is very new to retrospectives, don't bring them sprint data work and ask them to analyze the planning versus actual, right? Start with a lot more basic stuff. Then with all this, you want to ensure that the team is both fun and effective, right? These are basically, I think, the keys to making sure your retrospective is valuable for the team. I hear we have a question, but I can't see it. Oh, what's the optimum time for a sprint retro? That's a really great question. It kind of depends on how long your sprint is. I have seen a bit of extreme teams where they have sprints of 1 week. So definitely you can do a long meeting for that. I think that I would take at least 45 minutes. I think sometimes an hour is a scary meeting if you have a meeting for a full hour, but 45 minutes I think is a good time to break the ice, get people talking, and get more deeply into it. Of course, it really depends on your team. If you see that they are very quick to start talking, they don't have a problem with raising more things and it flows very easily, you can take it to 30 minutes. If it takes them longer and you're not sure on how to focus the conversation again, you can try it up to an hour. I don't think I would recommend more than an hour. Most people I know today can't sit in the room for more than an hour in the same meeting. When would you recommend looking at the sprint monitoring? So sprint monitor, that's a really good question. So I did mention the sprint monitoring quickly. Again, it's mostly recommended for more of advanced teams. I have to say, we used to call it sprint summary because it fits with the retrospective, but because of the feedback we got from users, we realized it's not just about the summary of it, right? You can actually monitor the sprint during the sprint as well. So some teams are even going here on the daily stand-up to see where you are today, how many tasks you have left open, how many are unplanned, how many are planned, how many are carried over, and what should you work on now? And realize if you're not, it doesn't seem like here we're on track to completing our sprint well, what should we focus on? Okay, and the last answer I got on when to use that is when you're planning. So a really cool feature is that you can really understand how many carryover you're going to have, and also in the velocity chart here, you can see how much you're usually able to complete. So that really helps with the planning, especially when you can just select a developer one by one and see how many story points or hours, right? They're usually able to complete and how much carryover they will have in the sprint. So it's another good way to do I see another question. How would you integrate Agile transformation frameworks such as Agile Fluency or EBM into your retro meetings to follow long-term goals? Wow, that's a really, really great question. I think, so basically, I think you need to start with the basics and make sure that, you are able to start at least, again, depending on where you are in your Agile process, you really want to make sure you are able to start with small action items and get these ones. But with the long-term goals, I think it's something that you have to incorporate as well within your sprint and the goals, and make sure that you are able to, sorry about that. Sorry, was I? Yeah, so basically, sorry, going over it again, what did I mention? So you want to make sure that you really are able to create this improvement, right, ongoing, with even start with small, I lost the word for it again. What? No, it's not the same word that I lost. Small start, like steps, basically, and grow into it, right? I think I would like to answer that a bit longer, but maybe we'll do that in an email afterwards, because we are running a bit out of time. I want to make sure I finish with this as well. So if you want to learn more, we have a great blog in the GoRetro website. Some of the stuff Jakov shared with you today are from there, but you can definitely learn a lot more about that as well. The GoRetro documentation, if you don't know how to get there, it's right here on the Help Center. We have some really great articles on basically almost anything you need to know. And this is super important as well, right? We have our support here. So we have Jakov here with us today, and we have basically, we're here waiting for you for any question that you have. We really do answer, you should try to answer under 4 minutes. So try us out with any question that you have. And feel free to reach out to us as well. This is my email, no@GoRetro. And again, from the chat support as well, you can reach out to me as well. I would like to thank you for participating in today. I hope it was helpful for you as well. And we will make sure to send the recording later on as well. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.